Hi everyone, it's John, and welcome back to another Historathon 2023 book review. Another book I read early on in January was this one. Is Robert Lacey's Great Tales from English History. I'll zoom in a bit so you can see the subtitle there. A treasury of true stories about the extraordinary people, knights and knaves, rebels and heroes, queens and commoners who made Britain great. This was originally published in a series of 3 separate volumes, so it came out in 3 separate years, in 2003, 2005, and 2006, and then they were all collected into one sort of omnibus edition in 2008, and that's the one I'm reviewing here. The full title of the book, which I read to you, has sort of one of those long, unwieldy titles that tend to be kind of common with popular, maybe slightly sensationalist histories that discuss topics like the salacious lives of monarchs and things like that. Witness the dozens of similar titles solely devoted to the treatment of, say, Henry VIII's wives, etc. With that in mind, I approached it with more than a little bit of skepticism. But, it's going to find its audience because it's interesting in its approach, and I want to talk about that. The book contains maybe about 150 chronologically oriented vignettes ranging from the discovery of Chatterman, who lived around, well, the book gives the dates 7,150 BC to the reign of Queen Elizabeth. So, really, all the way back before recorded history up through the 20th century, when Elizabeth took the throne in what I guess would be 1952 or so, consisting of about 2 or 3 pages each. And when I say they're vignettes, I mean, here's one of them. It starts on one page and ends on the next. And some of them are a bit longer, but, not much. They're mostly about 3 or 4 pages long or so. The stories largely follow the arc of the English monarchs from William the Conqueror, like I said, to Elizabeth II, but it does contain entries about figures outside of that roughly 950-year time span or so, including the Anglo-Saxon monarchs like King Arthur, who may or may not have been historical, but that's another video altogether, Alfred the Great, Ethelred the Unready, Canute, and Edward the Confessor. This is history that you can get in hundreds of other places, I know that, in much more detail. All of these people have probably hundreds of biographies dedicated to them apiece, but the advantage here is that you get a highly condensed sort of omnibus, compendium, digest-y version of history with a lot of interesting episodes covering a broad swath of history between the covers of a single book. And I think that's the biggest draw for a lot of people. There were a lot of names I didn't know that Robert Lacey discusses, some of which included the Chatterman. I had no idea about the Chatterman. Annie Besant and Elmer the Flying Monk. Had no idea who those people were, but they sent me down Wikipedia rabbit holes, which I always appreciate. But there were many more names I did recognize, but wouldn't have been able to tell you why they were important or deserving of a place in a book like this, including Richard Whittington, the 4-time mayor of London, or Robert Record, the man who introduced both the equal sign and the plus sign into mathematics, and the Battle of Spion Kop, one of the pivotal conflicts of the Boer Wars. Because of the brief touch-and-go nature of the entries, people, and places that are discussed, and people and places that are discussed. I guess this book will appeal the most to people who are looking for an easy kind of one-stop shop to gain a superficial understanding of history, and it does a really good job at that. Even the author admits that this is the book's intended purpose. It's a hook for those who have probably spent some time studying history but found it boring and were put off by it. Books like that certainly have their place and they have their audience, like I said, but for anyone who wants to really sink their teeth into the complexity of narratives and the stories and the people involved and appreciate more than just a two-page précis of history, this isn't the place to look. Although it does give you some exploring the original sources material in the back of the book, which lives up to its name and gives you copious primary and secondary resources to go to if you want to look. Of course, one of the downsides is that some of those resources are websites, and because the book came out going on 20 years ago, many of the sites are no longer functional, and when you type in the URL, you're just given an error message. They're out of date, don't exist anymore, whatever. But for anyone interested in a low commitment, casual jaunt through English history, this is really something to consider. I just wanted to note that while probably about a third of the book is dedicated to the years 500 to 1500, which is not the period that we're covering now in March. Like I said, it does go back to prehistory with the Chatterman, and the first several episodes, chapters, I guess, do cover quarter one material. And those include the Chatterman, Pythias and the Painted People, the Standard Bearer of the 10th, a quick chapter on the legends of Glastonbury, a quick chapter on Boudica, the Warrior Queen, one on Hadrian's Wall, and one on Arthur, which brings us up to around the year 500, give or take. But like I said, it covers a huge time swap, but there are things in here that are appropriate to quarter one. So I wanted to review it now and just sort of let you know about it. All right, well, that's my take on Robert Lacey's Great Tales from English History with that long, unwieldy subtitle. But there you go. I will see you next time, BookTube. Bye.